Welcome to the Blitz Growth Podcast. Listen in to learn how founders, entrepreneurs, and creators build and scale their businesses online. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Blitz Growth, where we go over starting companies as entrepreneurs and creators, all of the personal stories as well as successful entrepreneurs and creators stories. Today, we're continuing on from an episode that we previously did about the early stage marketing that we did with Vyper, a software product that helps you run giveaways and contests. And today, we're going to be going over some of the other strategies that we use once we got to the middle and later stages of the company, because it has been running for 4 years, and the type of marketing initiatives that we had changed throughout the time that we've been running the company, and we're trying to show you what worked, what didn't, and what we learned as we went through that process. So that will help you market your company, whether it's a business, whether you're a creator, whether you're an e-commerce store. A lot of these marketing processes and systems will apply to your niche and your business as well. So tune in here as we go over some of the awesome lessons that we learned with content marketing, using webinars, how to use courses and run ads to those. And also we're going to go over how UX and UI has such a massive impact on the growth of the company and what that meant for Vyper. So Kevin is here with me today, co-founder of Vyper and Hyax, our new product. So let's dive into this. How do we want to set this one out, Kevin?
Yeah, so I think to set this up is we're now in the middle stage of Vyper, right? Like for the early stage, it was literally just me and you, right? Mm-hmm. I think once we got to a decent sized, like basically now we're full time, I would say, right? Like we've both gone full time. We're making enough to pay ourselves, and now we have sort of a new set of challenges to grow the business, because a lot of the stuff that we were doing before was more of the scrappy stuff, like basically like partnerships, a lot of one-to-one interactions. And now it's more, we need to figure out how to scale this thing, right? Would you say?
Yep. That's a good summary. Definitely getting something that's more repeatable and more scalable.
Yep.
Definitely important aspects as you get into the middle and later stages.
And I think in the early stage, you really have to get every single customer. You're fighting for every single customer, basically, right? You're doing calls with every single guy. But once you get to this stage, the middle stage, you really want to find these ways to amplify your reach, because otherwise the founders are stuck just doing this one-to-one, customer acquisition, and that just isn't really scalable once you reach a certain level. So, do you want to go into the sort of the first way, like maybe the ads that we started running, the ads and the webinars, and how that all ties into the marketing?
Yeah, definitely. So one strategy we used was webinars and courses. So I'm going to go into webinars first. Just because this was, I suppose, a very hot topic at one point in the B2B SaaS world. Everybody was like, oh, you've got to run an ad to a webinar. It's got to be an automated webinar. And then people just turn into customers. It's amazing. So that did a few things. It created a bunch of webinar tools, for one. And two, it created a lot of webinars that people were tuning into. So we definitely jumped on the bandwagon, and we thought, let's definitely try this. And we were trying to think of a good topic for a webinar that wasn't too self-promotional again, but was still aligned closely enough to our product that it would create some sort of interest to possibly purchase at the end of the webinar, because we had a webinar deal set up as well. So the flow there was, we brainstormed the idea, and our webinar was about running a dropshipping store. Because at the time we did this, or it was growing a dropshipping store. At the time we did this, dropshipping was massive. So Alibaba was blowing up. A lot of the kind of like dropshipping gurus were releasing courses and showing billion-dollar screenshots. And there was also, I think the biggest change was when Oberlo came out. So Oberlo was allowing people to connect up their Shopify store with, manufacturers. And so we thought, okay, great, this is a trending topic. And we actually went and created our own dropshipping course, our own dropshipping store, and used our tool Vyper to grow the email list and revenue of that store. And so we took a few things here. So one, we took some examples from the best dropshipping stores or best dropshipping campaigns, and we covered those in our webinar. And then we also showed people how we actually went about growing a dropshipping store. So it was very kind of like educational. It provided a lot of value, and our product was only one little component of that webinar. A lot of it was about, how to essentially just grow an e-commerce store. And we had decided to pivot it towards dropshipping because it was trending at the time.
So one thing to note here, I think, is the webinars, like there's a lot of really spammy webinars out there. And I think that specific strategy is kind of dying in a way, because you're just not really providing much value, right, with those kind of webinars. And the whole idea behind those were they would just sort of give very little information, but the webinar was basically a pitch of their product. But we kind of did an opposite. We went in an opposite direction, where the webinar actually was taught the whole entire thing, right? And then at the very end, it was a pitch for our product, but the product wasn't necessarily crucial to doing all the methods in the webinar. It was just sort of like an add-on. Right? Yeah. Like, would you say? Like, we try to provide a lot of value, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what that funnel or what that flow looked like is we created that content, we filmed it. We didn't do it live, actually. We recorded it and then put it into like a webinar-ish flow, so that we created ads which would tease the content, would make people interested. They would then sign up to the webinar, which would usually just run automatically like once a day or something, or essentially just give instant access. So it was more like a webinar recording that we were giving away. And then from that, the page that we had that on would have the webinar deal that we would do for people who could get a 12-month plan at a discount, and also a lot of access to our training courses that we'd built out, or training material that we'd built out. So this was a lot of value, and it was a better deal than if you were just to come to our website. But what we really wanted to do was we wanted to try and lock people in for the 12 months instead of just discounting our monthly plan, because this was a way that we could increase our lifetime value and increase our average order value per person. And it was another thing that we actually wanted to point out was that usually this was a direct sale. So people would go through the webinar and then they would purchase that 12-month plan on the spot. So we could actually track that with Facebook ads. Whereas when people come through, because we had a freemium model, it's very hard to track those conversions, because we would run ads. They would come through, they would check out our site, they would maybe sign up to our freemium, and they would maybe stay on the free plan for a month or so before they would upgrade at a later date. And the longest period that a Facebook pixel can track is 28 days. And so we would have a lot of maybe lost data from that flow, because it wasn't a direct response kind of funnel, which made running ads very tough, because we couldn't measure the direct ROI.
So to recap that, it was basically running ads to just your general product, especially if you have like a free trial or freemium, the tracking is very difficult. Doing the webinar lets you track your purchase conversions a lot easier. So that was why we decided to go ads to webinars instead of ads to direct purchase. But the other benefit to that was also we gave extra value up front, and that added trust and extra value to that purchase.
And the other thing, that's a really good recap. And the other thing, if you are looking at running ads just directly to your product, you probably are going to have to optimize to something that's not a purchase, if you have a freemium or like a super long trial or something like that. So you might want to optimize to accounts created, which we did do for a little while, and then look at what your cost per account created is, and then figure out, okay, out of accounts created, what's my conversion rate from a created account to a paid account? So you can do it that way as well, which we did a little bit of, but we definitely had a lot of volume from freemium and people creating free accounts, which wasn't necessarily always the highest intent. So we couldn't get a very accurate read on what our actual percentage of people who created account was to people who purchased, because, as we changed our plan pricing and our model over the years, we saw like big drops off of possible spam that was signing up with that freemium model. So that was also another thing. When it comes to our tracking in a freemium, you've got to be careful about how you structure that to avoid spam signing up and that messing with your metrics.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We've done several different sort of like payment types, right? So we've done free trial, we've done freemium, and then now what we're doing is sort of like you can test the product for free, but to actually activate your product, you have to pay, essentially. And we find that right now is sort of the best way to get activation in our product, right? Because the way we do it now, where basically people can try out your product for an unlimited amount of time. And that's good because some people take a longer time to do things, but they can't activate. And when they activate, there's fixed costs on our end, right? So we prevent them from incurring those fixed costs like email sent and page traffic, stuff like that. And the other benefit of that is once they do activate, they get charged immediately. And generally this increases the amount of actual purchases that go through. So when you have a free trial, you don't charge them right away and you try to charge them 14 days later. A large portion of those people are going to end up having their credit cards get declined. So this was a great way for us to prevent that from happening as well.
Okay. Yeah, and so bringing that back to ads, so a few of those reasons are why it's very hard to run cold traffic ads to your SaaS. If you are doing remarketing worked really well in terms of getting people to make that final commitment to activate their account, to launch their campaign, to complete that checkout. Those are fine because you already know that that's a small defined audience and you can track that conversion quite easily. It's the prospecting that makes it tough. And so, we were really optimizing towards clicks, email signups, and then also the ROAS from return on ad spend from people buying that one-time webinar deal. We don't know exactly what the impact was of people who watched the webinar and then just wanted to go try us for free or sign up to the freemium instead of buying that annual deal, because the annual deal was still like $6.99. So it still was a pretty big commitment if you'd never heard of us before. But then we kind of broke even on that, I would say. Even started to diminish a little bit as dropshipping became less popular and it became a little bit more spammy. That was a less desirable webinar to watch.
It was also, I think the reason why we also stopped that webinar was there ended up being a lot more competition in that space too, right? So it just became more expensive to run those ads.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were operating at a break even, you were saying, right? And then, eventually the efficiency of that sort of like kind of went down, which is why we stopped. And then what was next after that?
Yeah. And so after we did webinars, we obviously noticed that, education and teaching people worked really well. So we then started exploring courses. Now there's a few different things to courses. Courses were, again, when we started, like getting a lot more popular. You had these guys, creating course platforms where you would build your course in there. We actually recorded our courses and then put them on our own internal training board. And then we also created courses that were published on the sites like Udemy and Skillshare and that sort of thing, which would build credibility. So the other thing that we did with courses is when we ran deals, we would include access to those courses. And the course would be priced at whatever it may be. I think it was like $4.99. And then we would give discounts of like $99 for like a Black Friday sale, or we would include the course if someone signed up to our monthly subscription or our annual subscription. So the course is really good because it does a few things. So one, you can educate and provide value. Two, you can distribute it across, places like Skillshare and Udemy, where we've now had thousands and thousands of students come through and learn about our product and build authority. Three, you can also use that content for crafting different deals and offers so that you can avoid having to discount your product. Instead of discounting it, you're adding more value to make that, that purchase seem more reasonable. And I think the fourth one was, which we haven't necessarily done yet, but we're in the process of doing, is driving traffic to a course that we've built now in Hyax that's going to have way more conversion factors in getting people to sign up to the actual product. Because a lot of the courses we did weren't necessarily on our actual product. Again, it was trying to provide value on, the first one was like the Viral Marketing Academy, which was more general viral marketing strategies and case studies around that. It wasn't just, how to run a giveaway. And then we did Facebook ads course. So that did really well just because we had background experience in that. That did really well on Skillshare. So that's where we got a lot of, authority and where we got a lot of attention for that. And then one of the chapters, or a few of the chapters in there, were about running ads with giveaways. We did a brand building giveaway course, a brand building course, which included a lot of content just around building a brand. And then again, a few of the chapters were about using giveaways to build your brand and build your audience. And then the most recent one we did was a Instagram growth course, because we noticed that a lot of the really successful giveaways were Instagram focused, and a lot of the successful customers that we had were the ones that were focusing on Instagram. So we also created a course based off, what our customers were doing and that was working, and then what was also trending, because we looked at some of the search results for Facebook giveaways, Twitter giveaways, YouTube giveaways, Instagram giveaways. Instagram giveaways just comes in behind Facebook giveaways. So it was definitely a lot more popular than, say, like YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, or any of those sorts of things. So there's a few ways that we decided to why we decided to create the courses we did, and the types of courses that we did create. So that was kind of where we went with that.
Yeah.
What are some questions around that, do you think?
Yeah. So I think one of the things with courses is because of our experience with courses, we realized there was some issues with the products out on the market. For example, with Hyax, our new product, you can now create a course and have people who buy the course also upsell them to your product right within the course. So that was one of the reasons why we created Hyax, was we wanted to have a course builder that also handled all of your sort of like growth mechanisms, like upsells, email signups and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that was a major factor for creating our new product. And then what do you think are, for courses, like what are the obstacles to creating a course? Because it's definitely not easy.
Yep. So our courses have gotten better over time. Our first courses sucked. They were terrible. A few things here. When you're creating a course, you really need to plan them out. So, planning out your deck, planning out the value you're going to provide, thinking about, the users on the other end of that course. Like, what do they want to know? How quickly do you want to get to the point? What examples are you going to show? And how is, at the end of that course, how are you going to leave at the end of that course in the minds of all the people taking that course? Are they going to be bored? Are they going to say that was a waste of time? Are they going to say that was too self-promotional? Are they going to say that was great value? So those are a few things just with the planning side. In terms of the other issues that we had was, it took us a long time to figure out the video quality and the audio quality. Now we use lav mics, which is much easier, and the quality is much better than when we were, first started just using the laptop mic, and then we were trying to use like a standalone mic, and the sound would keep going in and out depending on how close you were to the mic. And then we started using lav mics, which is way better. In terms of the recording software, that was really tough too. We started using AmpedAsia, and the export quality wasn't so good. Then we started using QuickTime, which was not too bad. We tried a bunch of other recording course types, and we noticed that like the external cameras were better than the computer cameras. We've been using a webcam, and that makes it a lot easier. But if you're looking at creating really high quality stuff, you kind of need to go with like an actual DSLR or something like that. But at that point, you still need to have the technical skills to set that up and edit it. And, there can be a lot more involved. So you've got to really gauge where you're at and what the course is going to be used for, and then what your technical abilities are. I would say those are a few things to consider. What would you say?
Yeah, I think also it depends on what your product is too, right? Because for us, we're in the marketing tech space. So there's easy course ideas for us. But for certain types of products, there might not be necessarily an easy course idea for them, right? So you just want to make sure that your course is entertaining, that it's informative, and you just need to get started really and improve over time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. I think they have gotten better over time, and you do learn a lot from doing webinars as well. So a lot of the things that we learned to do in our courses in terms of what people liked and didn't like were things that we picked up when we did live webinars. And when people responded really well to certain topics, certain slides, certain conversations, certain things, you could then take those and include them in your course. So if you're struggling to think of the content to use, think about the blog content that you have that people find really popular. Think about the social media content that you talk about that people really like. Think about the content that you're talking about on webinars that people really like. So I would say those are a few things if you're thinking about like, how do I create, what sort of content should I put in my course? And the other thing is, one of the best things to do in your course is to show rather than teach. So, we found that the courses that we put in, case studies, examples, screenshots, and we showed people actually how it was done and the results of that. I think that was much more effective than just like talking about a concept and saying like, hey, you should try and do this because it'll result in this, rather than showing them like, hey, we did this, take a look at this is what we did wrong, this is what we did right, now go and do this because it's the best way to do it. So I think those are a few things as well to help you create better courses.
Yep. And I think I don't know if we want to move on from the courses thing, but I just want to say that all this stuff kind of falls into the category of content marketing, right? But then there's like specific stuff we did for content marketing in terms of articles, right? Like blog posts, guest posting, stuff like that. Did you want to start getting into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so let's dive into, so content marketing ranges across multiple verticals. And content is everywhere. Content's really important when it comes to B2B. And one of the holy grails is to, have SEO just firing on all cylinders, and you have organic traffic coming to your site all day, every day. Especially if you're ranking for some good keywords. Because you're getting targeted traffic for free, essentially. That's what everybody loves about organic traffic, isn't it? You don't have to pay for the traffic. It usually converts pretty well if you're ranking for the right things. Now, a few things to consider when you're thinking about, using content marketing and organic SEO as a strategy. It took us a long time to kind of figure it out. when we first started, we didn't really know much about content marketing. We didn't really know much about SEO. And I think it took us a little while to realize, that a lot of these companies that were leading the space were relying on organic traffic. They weren't running ads or anything. They weren't doing what we were doing. So we're like, okay, we need to possibly, think like, hey, this has been working for some of these guys that have been in our space for like 5+ years. Maybe that's something that we should do. So then we started looking into SEO and writing content for our blog.
Yeah. Just really quick to add on to that. I think, I think content marketing is sort of the single most important marketing channel for B2B SaaS, would you say? Because it's become, with ads, we've kind of talked about it. It is hard to track. And even though we have these webinars and stuff like that, it's not as repeatable as you think it is. And we thought that would be our main strategy. But really, it came down to content being the most important strategy. So if you sort of take any tactic out of all this stuff, I would just go straight to content marketing. Like that's, I think, the best strategy. And so whether it's courses, whether it's webinars or SEO, content marketing, I think, is the number one thing you need to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with content marketing is that you can create a lot of value up front. And it's not as time sensitive as some of the other strategies. So, someone might come read an article, they might follow you on social media, they might watch a course that you do. They might do all this consumption of content before they go and convert. And that waiting period is fine for you because you're not having to pay for that traffic. You're essentially paying in time, not money. So if you've got a lot of time, then organic and SEO and content marketing definitely is in your favor. If you don't have a lot of time, a hybrid of content marketing plus ads can work really well. So you can see people promoting blog posts, promoting courses and that sort of stuff with a bit of paid media just to like speed up that process of getting traffic and awareness to that piece of the content. So you can do a hybrid if you have the budget. Now.
So I think, okay, so to maybe dive into this a little more, like I think SEO is a very important part of content marketing, right? Did you want to go into sort of how do you think about content marketing in the sense of search engine optimization? What's the process for that?
Yeah, so I can cover a few mistakes and wins that we had in the space of content marketing, especially around the blog. So the blog developed over 3 or 4 years, and it started off with us just writing about anything, not really knowing what keywords we were supposed to be going after. We didn't understand kind of like how to even write content, how to create a hook, how to create interesting titles, how to create good intros, how to structure our articles, how long they should be, what we should include in them in terms of images or videos, that sort of thing. So I think a few things that we've learned that you should definitely focus on with your content is, one, it's got to be really interesting. 2, you have to definitely hook them with the title and the intro. So you've got to make sure that you're capturing that attention to get them to read the rest of the article. 3, you've got to try and convert that organic traffic into the next commitment. So that's like an email lead. Some people collect phone numbers. Some people are pixeling these people to remarket them with ads. But essentially, you want to make sure that you are creating some sort of micro commitment so that you're getting something out of all of this content marketing that you're doing. 4, you really want to think about, we struggled with our quality. So we have done we do a lot of guest posting at the start because we wanted to, build up credibility, build those relationships, and create, links on other sites back to us because, that's one of the main ways that, the algorithms of Google and Bing and all those search engines understand like, hey, people are linking to this content. It must be something worth ranking. And it's a good way to get your brand in front of new people and create those relationships. So the issue that quality came in there was that we were not doing a good enough job at vetting some of the guest posts. But over time, as we've gotten better at vetting them, as we kind of start to look at what is the value exchange. So before we were kind of just like doing guest posts with anybody. But I think what is really important is picking and choosing your partners and making sure that that relationship has a fair trade-off, so that you guys are both committing the same amount of effort, because I think that's resulted in much better content partners than the ones that have just kind of been like looking for a quick link or a quick, listicle or something like that to publish. But yeah, is there anything you want to add to that? Because I can go into more detail about some of that as well.
Right. So I think for SEO purposes too, there's a research phase, right? So there's tools like Ahrefs, right? That's the main tool. And then you can use that to kind of research topics, and you want to find sort of a balance between a topic that's very competitive and a topic that can get you a good ranking. And with, it's not, so basically it's like the super competitive ones will get you the most traffic, but it's hard for you to get ranked high because they're competitive, right? So you have to find that balance.
Yeah, so I can talk about our strategy a little bit as well.
Yeah, go into that, sure.
So yeah, we use Ahrefs, as Kevin's mentioned, and what we do is we bucket into topics and categories. So we want to create, it's advised to create like 4 or 5 categories for your product and be like, okay, what's in this bucket, this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. So for example, one of our buckets might be Facebook ads. So we want to go Facebook giveaways. And so, or social media giveaways could be the bucket above that, depending on how granular you want to get with this. But so you have the overarching.
And how do you know how granular you want to get?
So generally you want to look at the keyword search volume. So if you're looking at your topics keyword, say it's Facebook, which has millions and millions of hits a month, that's probably too broad a bucket. You might want to look at social media marketing maybe as a bucket below that. And a bucket below that, you might want to look at Facebook marketing. Bucket below that, you might want to look at organic Facebook marketing or paid Facebook marketing. So you got to think about like how big a reach do you want to cover for your topic? Because the real value in SEO and content marketing is the long tail keywords. Because that's what Kevin was talking about, how you're finding keywords and phrases that have a low competition, meaning it's easy to rank for that keyword phrase, but a decent amount of traffic. So for example, we have let's say Facebook giveaways as one of our topic silos. Under that, we have maybe created a bunch of articles based around some keyword searches that we've done that have maybe competition in Ahrefs under a 20 domain authority and maybe 50 plus searches a month, because these are all the long tail keywords. So what we'll do then is we'll go and create content around all of these different little things. So one of them might be example giveaway ads, or it might be how to set up a Facebook giveaway. It might be rules for Facebook giveaways. So we think about all these different articles that we can create under that topic, and those articles are kind of optimized to those keyword phrases that we're trying to, get on the first page Google for. Now, the benefit is...
So to clear that up really quick. So you're basically saying each of these articles is based off a keyword, right? Underneath Facebook giveaways. So it might be like, right? Is that what you're saying? So you have a bucket, which is Facebook giveaways, and then there's a few sub buckets underneath, subtopics underneath. And these subtopics, the reason why you want to optimize for these is because it's way easier to get ranked on these than it is to get ranked on Facebook giveaways, because there's so many people competing for Facebook giveaways.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And the other thing is that the best way to think about it is what type of questions are people asking and how can I write content to solve those questions? Because when you think about it, when people go to Google, they're really most of the time searching for a question, the answer to a question. So if you're trying to think about what sort of topics you should write about, think about your target market and what type of questions they're asking, specifically related to your product or service. So what type of questions are they asking? And then, does that have a lot of search volume or not? And then is it something that you can write about? So, there's a massive amount of guides on, how to find topics and keywords and that sort of stuff online. Like Backlinko is really good. SEMrush is really good. Ahrefs is really good. There's a bunch of really great resources that actually are experts in this. And they'll definitely go into more detail about how to create topics and article ideas. But ideally, what we've found is that if you're answering people's questions, and if those questions are related to your product or niche, you can get relatively good targeted traffic. And then once you have written that content, you need to sort of get it ranking. So in this case, you need to have, and getting something ranking means that, the search engine has to deem it valuable enough to put it on the first page. So there's a bunch of things that go into that. But in short, it's like, is the content written well? Is it enough content? So usually you want to aim for probably 1,500 to 2,500 words in your article. And they're going to look at a range of different things. Now, Google doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what they focus on, but really you're looking at quality of content and then links to that content. Because when someone links to your content, that's essentially them saying yep, that's one vote for Vyper for being good content. And the more votes you get, the more Google is like, okay, this content is pretty good. The readability is good. The time on site is good. There's a bunch of these guys that are relevant linking to it. So it must be a good source of information. And that's when they start ranking you up a little bit more. Any questions more in that, or anything you think people would want to know more on that?
Yeah. I think this is a very, very big topic, right? Content marketing. Yeah. It's just for example, it's hard to know whether your content is actually good or not. Right. I think one way to kind of gauge that though, is to, let's say, look at your keyword and then kind of see what other people's content is based on around that content. And your goal is just to be better than the top person. So if they have a certain thing, whatever, their guide, and it's, it doesn't have certain factors, maybe it doesn't have enough good examples, then your content should have way more examples, for example. Mm-hmm. So
example.
Yeah. So that's but it is hard. I think for someone who's not necessarily involved with content creation, this is sort of a hard process, right? Yeah. Because you have to get experience, and it's really you definitely need to just do it and do it over time and devote a lot of effort into it. And for us, we actually, this is around this time is when we hired someone to help us with this too. So that kind of gave us a leg up. So, if you're very strapped for resources, then you should think about whether you can align yourself to be doing very heavy content marketing, because it is a time intensive thing.
Yeah, because the time intensiveness comes in brainstorming the ideas and topics, finding the keywords. If you're doing partnerships like guest exchanges and that sort of thing, you still have to write content for their posts, their blogs. They're going to write content for you. You're going to have to review all of that. And then with those partnerships that you create, that opens up a lot of opportunities for, getting introduced to other companies who are doing content marketing, because a lot of the time the content marketing world is quite small. So when you do a guest post exchange with, we did, one with, let's say we did one with, like I said earlier in our last episode, Founder. They would introduce us to someone else who they'd been working with on the content marketing side as well. So those relationships lead to a lot of introductions to other content marketing teams who are also looking to do a similar thing. So the goal here is to get a bunch of really highly engaged partners, and you're all helping each other create good content and get good links to relevant content, because you don't just want a basic bio link. You want to get links specifically. So for example, what is it? Active Campaign has a article about running giveaways. We want them to link to our guide on how to run giveaways. We just don't want them to link to our homepage. So that's another thing that we learned actually, that we didn't realize at the start. Instead of just getting links to our root domain, which is our main domain, Vyper.ai, instead of just getting basic links to our homepage, we actually wanted to get links to our content that we wanted to rank. Because, this gets very technical, but the link juice is much stronger when it's a direct link to your blog post rather than just a link to your root domain. And some of that link juice passes on to your /blog and all that sort of stuff. But it's much better to get a relevant link that someone is talking about how to run a giveaway and they're linking to your guide on running a giveaway. That's a much better link than someone just linking to your homepage in like a bio or something.
Yep. And then if you hire someone, you really want to vet that person pretty well to make sure that they're a good writer. Yep. And so if you like, I think for us, we did get lucky because we hired someone and then we kind of trained him up. So he went from, not necessarily knowing how to write good content to now creating pretty decent content, I would say.
Yeah. And it is a process that you need to build out. So, we have a bunch of set procedures that we follow for every guest post and for every post that we write ourselves. So these procedures will include how many images, how many links, how many examples, the structure. Have we written like 5 different headlines to pick the best one? Have we included the keyword in all these certain places? Have we got like 5 other secondary keywords that we're also putting in there? Because when you're ranking for long tail keywords, the idea is not to just rank for one long tail keyword. You want to rank for like 50 to 100 long tail keywords. So even though each one of those long tail keyword searches might only have 10 to 50 searches a month, you're ranking for like 100 of those.
Yeah, I think that's a little hard for someone to process, right? Because it's like, I think, because are you saying that you want to plan out the 50 and then write your content? Or are you saying it just happens that you're going to get the 50?
So it just, as you like build out more expertise around that topic that we were talking about, like that topic bucket, you're going to start ranking for any questions related to how to run a Facebook giveaway, whether it's how to run a dog Facebook giveaway, how to run a cat Facebook giveaway, how to run a hamster Facebook giveaway. Once you have that overarching post of how to run a Facebook giveaway, all of those long tail ones you're going to start ranking for, just for example. Mm-hmm. Even though
so it's more of like as your content gets better and you get more backlinks and stuff like that, you'll start ranking for more long tail stuff.
Yeah. So if you have Ahrefs now, or if you want to sign up for the free version or something, go and look at your competitors, take a look at some of their top content that's not including their branded keywords, and you'll see that they've written this one post on this thing and they're ranking for like 50 keywords, and then you can see all those 50 keywords that they're ranking for, and you'll be able to be like, okay, well, these 5 posts that they've written are generating most of that traffic. Can I write a better piece of content than that and outrank them? Might be tough. Or is there another gap in our market that they haven't addressed? So is there a different question people are asking, or is there a different topic that I can write about that's still relevant enough that is maybe easier to rank for? But a good starting point is just going and taking a look at your competitors, seeing what they're ranking for. And a few things you want to look at is what keywords are they ranking for, what articles are ranking, and where are they getting links from. So look at those 3 things and you'll really get a good picture on what's required for you to either outrank them or what's required for you to be on par and create similar content.
Yep. Awesome. So I think that is our major focus right now, is we're at the stage of, doing a lot of this content, running ads to webinars / courses, and then doing a bunch of content marketing. Is there anything in this stage that you tried that you feel like was sort of a failure or just didn't work?
No, we had a lot of failures around content marketing. It took us a long time to get good enough content. And I think it's still an ongoing challenge, but it's like finding a balance between writing for a human and writing for a search engine. It's really hard to find that balance because you're like, okay, I really want to rank for these keywords, but those keywords aren't really that interesting. Or how do I make this content more interesting as opposed to just like a guide on how to do something? Because you're weighing up between getting these links because you're covering a certain topic or getting a lot of links because your content is actually interesting and getting shared. So ideally you want to find a hybrid of both, but a lot of the times that's hard to do. So having something that's technically sound, but also interesting enough to be shared with the greater audience, I think that's a tough thing, and we've failed at that a few times. I think we definitely haven't converted our blog traffic as well as we could. We redesigned the blog multiple times. We've constantly tried different types of content upgrades, different types of pop-ups, all that sort of stuff. So having an exit intent pop-up has boosted the amount of emails we're collecting from that. We use our own tool to create kind of like a rewards program, which helps to an extent because not only does it collect the email, but we also get people to like share our content on social media, which helps, and like retweet and reshare stuff that we've already posted. I think the other thing is, it is hard to funnel traffic away from these content course platforms. So for example, we've published courses to like Udemy and Skillshare, and we've got thousands and thousands of students in there. But of all of those people that have consumed that content, watched that course, not that many of them come over to our site and make purchases. That strategy is more to build awareness, build authority, and now we can direct people who are actually our customers. We direct a lot of them to those platforms and say like, hey, this works. This is an example. 5,000 people have taken this course and it's got 4.5 stars. They're like, okay, this strategy must work. So it's a third party source of credibility as well.
The other thing to add to that. Oh yeah, sorry. The other thing to add to that too is the one part of that is probably because we can't really track it as well, right? Because a lot of those platforms, they don't allow you to like add your own links or whatever, or you just have to write your domain and in the slides or stuff like that, right? And that's why I think it's important to actually make your own courses on a platform that you own. So you have a lot clearer direct access to that, to your own, links, pixels, whatever. And that's why we put all of our
those people.
Yeah, exactly. So now we put all of our courses onto our own platform, Hyax.com.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're going to be pushing that a lot more and seeing how those courses perform and that sort of stuff. So we'll keep you updated on how that all works out. But yeah, really excited to get some of that stuff out and see how we can change our marketing strategy a little bit, and change the flow of traffic. So have a combination of SEO as well as course driven, because I think the course driven stuff is much more shareable. If you can invite someone to a course, or if you can share a course with a team member that's providing value, a lot of the time that's a little bit more engaging and a little bit more personal than just sharing a blog article. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons to written content, and there's pros and cons to video and course content. But I think a healthy combination of both is probably a good content marketing strategy to have.
Yeah, and also just you can play to your strengths too, right? So for ours, like I think we might be better with videos and stuff, right? And then we're improving on the written content as well. And then now we're also building out a podcast too. So maybe if you want to do more audio, which I think we enjoy the audio stuff as well. And that is a piece of content, and that's another channel that you can kind of use content marketing on. So,
yeah, and another aspect of the content marketing that we haven't really talked about too much is we do a lot of video series. So we'll film I'll film like maybe 10 or 15 short 1 to 2 minute videos around marketing tips. And then we'll edit those and we'll put them on YouTube. We'll answer questions in Quora. We'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it on LinkedIn. And we'll put it on all of these places. And we kind of are just creating these short little video pieces of content that is providing value. We're not really asking for anything in return. And, a lot of people end up commenting on that. They end up, when we do talk to them, they're like, yeah, I love your LinkedIn posts. I learned all this stuff from your LinkedIn posts. So the hard part about content marketing is it's not as black and white as paid advertising is. It's very hard to attribute stuff in content marketing. But I think once you have like a healthy combination of a few things, they all start working together quite well and you start seeing that overall lift. But it does take a while to get the momentum going. And it is definitely much harder to track than, direct response paid advertising. I would say that's one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah. And how do you track it?
So at the moment, we're really using Google Analytics with Google Data Studio. So we're kind of like monitoring like volume of traffic to certain pages, posts. We connect up Google Data Studio to our Google Search Console. So we're monitoring our keywords and where we rank and all that sort of stuff. And then once you get to the middle of the funnel, you're looking at time on site, what your bounce rate is, those sorts of things. So are people interested in your content? Because if they're not, they're going to bounce. If they're interested, they're going to stay on the page. And then we're looking at events like accounts created, if they got to the credit card page or not, if they purchased or not, if they got to the pricing page. So we've broken it down into a bunch of smaller conversion aspects and goals. And we're now looking at that as well as the actual pages and the time on site, bounce rates, all that sort of stuff, and then the Google Analytics goals. But that definitely has its issues as well because a lot of our Google Analytics stuff just goes into the direct/none. So you can get an overall read on how much traffic you're getting, how much of that is converting to these different events, but you can't always tell where exactly that traffic is coming from. Like using the Google Data Studio helps because we can look at the keywords where we're getting all of our traffic from and the blog posts that we're getting all our traffic on. But you can't always tell, did that traffic come from Facebook? Did it come from Twitter? Did it come from an affiliate that's sharing our content? Did it come from, Skillshare or Udemy? Like a lot of your traffic will get bundled into Google Analytics under direct/none, which is super annoying. And definitely another challenge that I think pretty much all marketers have, really. One of the solutions to that. Mm-hmm.
Wait, say again?
I was going to say one of the solutions to that is, maybe looking at different data analytic tracking because, we currently are using Google Analytics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then the different, so obviously I think with the goals, right, in Google Analytics, it's always like the last click, right? Is that usually how it goes? So it's like very hard to necessarily attribute a lot of that stuff.
So
is there a way? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a few things you can do with the attribution stuff. Now, this is probably another completely new episode, but to keep it really short and to keep it valuable for you guys listening, Google has its own attribution tool. Facebook has its own attribution tool. Go and set up both of them because you want to cross-reference. And what you can do is you can compare different attribution models. So everything is usually last click by default. Last click means that the source that was last clicked before the conversion event happened will get the attribution for that conversion. You've got other models such as linear. So every touch point gets the same amount of value. You've got positional. So the first and the last touch point get like 40 and 40% of the value. Everything in between gets 20%. You've got time decay. You've got all these different attribution models. If you want, let me know and I can send you way more information on this. We actually published a massive post on this on Social Media Examiner that took me months to write. So definitely read that. But I think the attribution stuff is important. But if you want to just get started with that, set up the attribution tool in Facebook and Google. There's also an attribution section in Google Analytics that you can start using straight away, and you can compare your first click and last click. That way, you'll see the channels that are consuming or driving a lot of the top of the funnel traffic and conversions, and the channels or the traffic sources that are converting all of the bottom of the funnel stuff. So that's just to keep it like super brief. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, is there an easy way to see whether someone like visited your blog and then also visited like your like thank you page, like after they purchased? Like there should be an easy way to view that, right? Or no?
Yeah. So the best way to do that is you do your attribution comparison. So you look at the first click, the last click, and the positional. So you can kind of tell, where all of the traffic is coming from. That's the first touch point and converting, and where it's the last touch point. And you're going to look at discrepancies between those.
But what about like if you just want to see, like it doesn't matter if it's the first or the last, but like if they've just been on 2 pages, is there any way to do that with Google?
Yeah, so you're going to want to look at your traffic sources, and then you're going to want to set up Google Analytics goals, and you can just do a goal based off a URL, or you can create events, which is a little bit more technical. But you can then look at the goals that come in by traffic source, and then so you can see pages that people are coming in from and then converting, or pages that people are converting on. And then you can also look at page paths. So you can see, okay, like 20% of our users are coming to this page, then they're going to this page, then they're converting. So you can definitely use page paths as well. In Google Analytics tool, you can create a funnel. So you can say, okay, usually people will go to this page and this page and this page, then convert. This is much more common in e-commerce, where you think about it like homepage, product page, cart, purchase. So it's a little bit more complicated with SaaS.
But does it have to be a linear like progression, or can it just be like, hey, this person viewed the blog on day 1, on day 10 they converted, and then that would be a goal? Is that possible?
So not on the free tools like Google Analytics. You're not going to get that granular personal, journey mapping. But if you're looking at like, attribution tools like, Wicked Reports and a few other Attribution.io and a few of these other platforms that, they actually specialize in journey tracking on the individual level, you can definitely start seeing that. Now, one of the main issues is that, when someone comes to your website, ideally Google is supposed to, cookie them, and then anytime they come back, they know when they've come back and that sort of stuff. So you can still see delays and all that sort of thing. It's just very vague. And, as people change device, as people clear their browser history, as people click on different links that remove cookie tracking and that sort of stuff, you start to find that data becomes, a little bit in the gray area. So this is like one of the biggest issues in marketing in general is tracking. And, as you see GDPR coming in, as you see CCPA come in, all of these different regulations that are happening to restrict the amount of tracking that is happening is making it harder for marketers to follow these customer journeys. So I think in general, it's a big problem across the industry that a lot of people are trying to solve. And, in terms of how you should do it, if you're just getting started, you're either growing or you're not. So don't get too worried about this attribution stuff. Just set up the top level things and be like, okay, are my accounts growing? Is my traffic growing? Okay, can I pinpoint where this traffic and where these accounts are coming from? Don't worry about getting super granular to start with. As you get bigger and bigger, and as like that 1% becomes a bigger and bigger amount of money, that's when you need to start worrying about getting super granular with these custom, individual journeys, because that software is really expensive.
Yeah, I think like to note maybe at the beginning, you just want to get as much traffic as you can, as long as like legitimate traffic. You don't want to be paying for bad traffic, but try to get, legitimate traffic through Google and those other means. And then once you have a certain level of traffic, like let's say maybe 10,000 visits, then you can look more granularly into like, is this traffic actually converting? And then one of the ways that is like pretty simple to do is to have like a pop-up opt-in, and then you see how many people are actually opting into your email list. That'd be a very simple way to track because you can easily do that with a lot of these apps.
Yep. So looking at conversion rates is really good. So what we look at, for example, is conversion rates of people who visit the site and then create an account, or people who visit the blog and then create an account. So you can definitely look at percentages and like, is that conversion rate or percentage getting better or worse? The other thing that we do that's actually really useful from a marketing standpoint is when someone signs up, we ask them how they heard about us. Now, this is really good because you're actually hearing how they heard about you, not what they're tracked as finding you through. So this is really good because some people will hear about us through maybe certain marketing gurus or marketing influencers, that sort of stuff. And then we can then go and take that and be like, okay, I'm going to reach out to that person and see if we can create a partnership or something. So that's also been really valuable, and how we created great partnerships with a Better Lemonade stand, with Max Finn, and a few other people. So even just asking people how they found you is actually a pretty good question to ask people when they're signing up to your course, when they're maybe checking out, or when they're signing up to your SaaS product.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. I think that's a good wrap up of everything.
Nice. So I know that was a lot of info.
Yeah. I'm sure they can, if they have any questions, they can just email us and then we can go more in depth. Because I'm sure it's like we went very advanced with a lot of this stuff, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So, guys, thanks for listening. And, as Kevin said, if there's anything you want more information on, feel free to email jack@hyax.com. I'll point you in the right direction. I'll give you the resources you need. But thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe, and looking forward to having you join our next session. We're going to be going, into more marketing strategies, how to start companies, how to grow companies, that sort of thing. So thanks for listening. Really appreciate your time. Leave a review, send in what topics you want us to talk about, and let's, get your help in making this the best possible podcast that you can listen to. So thanks, guys.
If you like the show, remember to share it with friends and coworkers. You can also check us out and share past episodes at blitzgrowth.com. Hit subscribe and leave a review letting us know how this podcast has personally helped you and your business. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, make sure to send us an email via blitzgrowth.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on our next episode.